Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, and most importantly, provide some actual insight into what we can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that every day. And what do I mean by that? I say that because I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take all that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many, many reasons why I proudly fly that American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. Happy Tuesday. What is going on out here? Bill McIntyre, let's go. Good morning, everyone over on YouTube. Tracy St. Clair, she's watching over on YouTube. Good morning. Flo, what is up? Good morning. Watching over on LinkedIn. Busy day today, you guys. It is a busy, busy day. We got a bunch of freight moving this week. It's, like we were talking about, these last couple of weeks have been pretty busy for us. And a lot of that is because it's been our outreaches. It's been our buildup. It's taken us, 12 months of work to get to this point, right? And, we got more freight moving over these last couple of weeks, and especially right now. And it's all about that preparation. Like, this is where a lot of those opportunities are going to come from, especially if you're newer with some of your customers, or you haven't, gotten any quotes yet. They start to pop up around the holidays, right? That's why I'm working throughout the holidays. That's why I'm not taking, outside of Christmas Day and New Year's Day and stuff like that, I'm not taking any additional time off, because I got freight to move, right? We got freight to move. We got freight going on. I literally was just awarded a shipment as I went live. So there's still freight moving, you guys. There's still a lot of opportunities going on out there. So do not lose sight of that around the holidays. I know that there's still a lot of, like, you can focus on 2024 all you want, but there's still time left, right? There's still time to put up, to increase that lead on the scoreboard from your competition. Corey Buchan, what is up? Happy Tuesday on YouTube. John Radvansky, good morning, freight folks. He says he's watching over on YouTube as well. Yeah, still a little congested this morning, if you guys couldn't tell. It's just part of it. I'm out here trying to just fighting through this cold, but let me see here. Josh Hempstead, what's up, my man? Good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in, Josh. Yeah, so I want to talk about some fundamentals here. When I started creating content, Tuesdays was always Tuesday training topic, was the little video that I put out there. And I want to talk about the fundamentals. And it came up in my conversation. So my latest episode on the long form podcast with Kevin Hill, Brush Past Research, we were talking about data, right? We were talking about data, technology providers, and, how big is the market share, and kind of like breaking a lot of that stuff down. And I remember in our conversation, and I truly feel like I'm a massive fan of automation. I'm a massive fan of technology, but you cannot automate a bad training or a bad process, right? And that is something that I think people view technology as is if we just buy this technology, we're going to have all of a sudden a rock solid training program. And I just still believe this, and I'm going to bet my business on it, that going back to the basics in this industry while leveraging technology is going to be the great separator. There's a lot of talk about AI and everything else. I'm not the largest fan of AI in a lot of regards. I don't believe in utilizing AI to replace anybody. I don't ever believe in automating my customer and carrier experience and dealing with a human being. And I think that a lot of individuals out there need to focus on the blocking and tackling of this industry, right? Pricing is great. Software is great. Technology is great. But if you can't execute without that stuff, that's where you need to start. frontline knowledge about transportation. I would love to see more of that come back in. And I'm going to do that inside of my operation. Our focus is going to be about training the fundamentals of this industry, transit time, hours of service. Can this stuff even load on a specific trailer? Because again, back to the basics, I think that that's just going to be the great separator out there. Because, you know, the beauty of somebody like me who's out here talking every single day, I'm out there actively prospecting. I'm talking to actual shippers every single day, and I've never heard any of them say, "What does your tech stack look like? What is is this automated? Is that automated?" They've pretty much boiled down to a couple of key things. Can you execute on the freight? I.e., are you going to send in the right equipment type? I specialize in open deck and heavy haul. So if they ask for 8-foot tarps with edge protectors, are you going to send in a flatbed with 8-foot tarps and edge protectors, or are you going to send in the wrong equipment? And another thing too, accurate billing. That's another massive thing, right? How do they want to be invoiced? Do they need the originals? Does a photo of the BOL? Do they want the email titled in a specific way when we're sending over PODs? What does that look like? I think it's those little things that are going to be a massive separator out there in 2024. And I think that that's where a lot of you who are just like me that are building their book of business or building their business up, I'm going to continue to sell on that. All right. I'm going to talk about our year one results here. Me and my business partner are going to put together a podcast. We're going to release it in early 2024, but we're going to talk about our year one results. We're going to talk about what we did to structure our company and everything else, what we hit from a load volume perspective, and maybe some other stuff too. But we're also going to talk about the customer experience and some of the stuff that we learned because we made mistakes this year. You guys, we're humans. We're going to do that. But what we didn't do, or what we did do, excuse me, repeatedly, is focus on the fundamentals of this industry. And that led to a lot of success early on in year one for us. So that's my thing, you guys. If you're going to talk to anybody, if you're going to have a main focal point for 2024, again, I say this all the time, the overall market's irrelevant if you can't execute. All right. Because there's always going to be talk about that. Where's freight rates at? Where's freight volumes at? None of that shit matters if you can't execute. Right. So focus on the fundamentals for 2024. Get back to the basics. All right. Increase and I think build out from there. Right. You can go to so many different angles. Focus on the basics, increase your customer loyalty. That's my main focus for 2024. So on top of hiring 10 people and hitting $30 million in revenue by next year. That's what we're going for. That's our goal. Let me see here. Stephen Tittle, what is up? Good morning. Let's go. Robert Cowton says, good morning, Chris. Build resilience, never be complacent, gave the right amount of stress to stay sharp. And he also said, logistics industry is all about consistency over time equals success. Sydney Thiessen, good morning to you. Zach Lonergan, what is up? He says, I agree with your take on tech and humans. The way forward is healthy balance of human touch and tech tools you give your team. We are in the age of cyborg. I totally agree with that, right? I just truly feel like people, like about what they say. And you know what's funny about that, Zach, about you bringing that up? If you, all with all the automation tools and all of this stuff that people are pumping out there from a tech perspective, the one thing that's consistent, everybody says sales is about what? Relationships. People do business with you because why? Because they like you. So how do you automate a customer experience if you remove the human element from it? That's one thing that I'm looking for. And I'm sure some smart ass is going to have something to say about that, but that's fine because I don't give a fuck what they think. I'm going to continue to do me. But yeah, guys, we got some articles to break down. As always, you guys, all the links to the articles that I break down are going to be put up on the Freight Coach YouTube channel, as well as a Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay, which is going to be available on iTunes and Spotify almost immediately after the show. One small note of a glimmer of hope: fuel continued to drop. It's down to like $3.89 a gallon right now nationwide, not everywhere, but that's the nationwide average. I get that from the EIA. EIA.gov. They put out their weekly fuel schedule and everything else. So I think it's a good sign, right? Like I know freight rates can be in the dump and are a complete dumpster fire in some areas, but at least fuel's starting to go down, or continuously going down at least. So, all right, you guys, let's get into some articles here. Hold on. Sorry about that. First article we're going to break down, ttnews.com. Congressional politics impede the 2023 legislative agenda. In 2023, several high-profile federal policy proposals relevant to the trucking industry were unable to cross the legislative finish line. The culprit? Congressional politics. A series of leadership updates throughout the year, especially in the Republican-led House, contributed to Capitol Hill's most recent round of gridlocks. Due primarily to GOP infighting in the House, big picture legislation sat on the sideline awaiting consideration. For instance, a vote on funding update for federal transportation agencies, which needed to be passed by October, was instead pushed to early 2024. Supply chain legislation such as freight rail safety and truck parking bill also fell victim to to a very public display of governing inertia. Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republican caucus second leader in less than a year, led the passage of the fall short-term funding bill that averted a partial shutdown. And then the new speaker went on to pledge a commitment in advance funding in 2024. And then we all know that he replaced Kevin McCarthy out there. And then we are fighting, but you have to be wise about choosing your fights, Johnson told reporters on Capitol Hill in November, shortly after the bipartisan approval of the short-term funding. You got to fight fights that you can win, and we're going to. And you're going to see the House majority stand together on our principle. Look, it took decades to get into this mess, and I've been at this job less than 3 weeks. He's got some good points in that statement alone. Let me see here. And then it goes on to say, talking about that truck parking, FinPark. If you guys want to look at a solid company out there for truck parking, FinPark is a solid start. But despite bipartisan nature, a bill aiming to facilitate access to parking for truck drivers from every corner of the country did not advance in 2023. I did just see before I went live, there was something about I think it's out in Rock Springs, Wyoming, off of I-80, that they're going to do a couple hundred parking spot project that looked like it was out there. I just saw the headline. I don't know too much further than that, but that's a good sign. And then it goes on to say that the ATA repeatedly called on Congress to approve the legislation. Iowa Motor Truck Association President Brenda Neville renewed ATA's call for the passage of the bill. And then it goes on to say that the priority that we have right now, as they said, that we have 313,000 parking spaces to 3.5 million drivers. So the shortage is real in every single state. We need more truck parking across the nation. ATA President Chris Spear continued sounding the alarm on the need for that. And then Spear celebrated that lawmakers instrumented in promoting the access to parking out there. The lack of safe and accessible truck parking places an enormous and costly burden on our nation's truck drivers. Again, I've already put my piece out there, but this is just the top legislative issues that didn't get passed this year. And, it would be good to see that, because if you talk to truck drivers out there, that's like number one or number two of their biggest issues that are out there. Safe and secure parking and driver pay is always another one. And then number three is always a hatred for freight brokers. So I just threw that in there. The FET repeal, high on the industry's agenda was pursuing a repeal of the tax on the purchase of new trucks. ATA and members of the Clean Freight Coalition renewed their push for repealing the World War I era 12% excise tax on new commercial trucks. This year, stakeholders directed their message primarily with the leadership, and that was removing the federal tax is a critical step to deploying these environmentally technologies faster across the entire industry. The current federal excise tax has become a barrier. Yeah, you know what? I'm always about repealing taxes because I do not like paying taxes at all. I don't think anybody is like a big fan of it. So yeah, we should do that, and we should make it more affordable to get in there and purchase newer equipment and everything. And then it goes on to also talk about the supply chain, and that the Senate Commerce Committee advanced their comprehensive bipartisan Railway Safety Act, and that kept pushing. I also think it's important to note that the Southern Railway has been shut down due to the massive invasion at the southern border. I'm not I found any articles about that yet, but I think UP Streamline or Union Pacific put out a tweet that I think it's Eagle Pass, Texas and El Paso, Texas. I believe that they've shut down all rail access on the southern border. I mean, if you've been paying attention to the news at all, there's like videos out there of illegal immigrants riding on the trains down south, and it's very concerning, right? But we'll talk about that if the whatchamacallit, once an article comes out about that. But that's one thing, in regards to the Railway Safety Act. So pay attention to that if you have any freight moving via rail out there over the holidays, that chances are that freight might have to go OTR in the event, if that, depending on how long that shutdown is going to be at the southern part of the country. And then it goes on to say, here's another one too about IIJA, and that's the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. And then it was, obviously Biden, with his impeccable Bidenomics on his reelection agenda. How can you be the leading country in the world and have a second-rate infrastructure? And it's not possible. And I agree with Biden on that. Well, our infrastructure is terrible, right? So we need to work on that. We need to fix that, and we need to have actual action in that, right? And if you peel back that the funding, the amount of money that was put out there and approved in that needs to be more for building shit in our country and not going to other areas of the world that are not the United States, because that's what you would think when you hear the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, that's where the money would go, and it's not. So, those are some of the top headlines that didn't necessarily get passed through in the 2023 legislative schedule. And it's going to be interesting to see, right? I'm working with lining up some guests in early January to talk about the 2024 legislation that is coming out there that will be affecting the transportation industry. So I will definitely keep you guys all posted on that. And that article was from ttnews.com. Congressional politics impede the legislative agenda. Next article is the supply and demand. This is from FreightWaves, excuse me. Truckload supply and demand on collision course in 2024. Data gives reason for optimism for economy and transportation market next year. Trucking demand is up and capacity is down. While capacity is down since this time last year, this statement by itself means that the transportation market is healthier, but it also suggests that 2024 should be better in the aggregate gap as the gap between supply and demand narrows. Truckload demand is barely a shadow of what it was during the pandemic. As we all know, there was a lot of uncertainty during that time. There was a false sense of reality about moving freight. There was a ton of panic and stuff going on out there. I think that there's always a caveat to throw in there when people want to talk about 2021 and 2022's freight market. It did say right now, tender volumes are averaging over 10% higher year over year this December and have been growing steadily since last winter. Outside of October, daily tender volumes moved higher. On this past week's episode, Zach Rogers, a professor out at Colorado State, suggested that the demand growth was a product of both inventories having been right-sized versus last time out there. While he admits that there is some ongoing concern about consumer health, the numbers are what they are. Never, and it goes on to say, never bet against the American consumer. I don't know about that with credit card balances being as high as they are. But anyways, possibly the most shocking revelation, was the outlook in transportation prices by respondents. The LMI is divided up into multiple measures of logistics activities, such as transportation and warehousing prices and capacity. The transportation pricing component has averaged a value of 38 in 2023 and has been showing below 50 out there. While the forecast is an opinion on some level, the data does suggest that the supply of capacity and demand for its use moving back towards the equilibrium at a relatively fast clip. FreightWave CEO Craig Fuller stated in this week's State of Freight webinar that the risk is growing for shippers in 2024. Taking an overly aggressive approach to cost cutting would be more risky than last year. No capacity is guaranteed, even the strongest carriers feeling this level of downturn. And Fuller admitted that he does not definitively know that the market will turn, there are several respondents that feel similarly that there will be noticeable signs of tightening by the end of next year. Economically speaking, there are still questions, but those answers are coming into focus at time. Um, I think it's going to be interesting, right? I think anybody can throw a guess out there about what is going to happen in 2024. My perspective, and I've been honest about this, right? Like don't um I pay attention to the macroeconomic indicators of the transportation industry, the economy, the world, but I don't let a lot of that stuff sway me from going about building my business, right? Because if you could find any negative headline or any negative news out there to not do your job if you want, but the fact of the matters are this. People are still onboarding new providers. Freight is still moving. That means what? There is still an opportunity for you to go out there and find the growth that you are looking for. It's earned. It's going to take a lot of effort, right? And that's one thing that um nobody out here is really talking about is the fact that, you know what, you guys, sales is hard. All right. You guys tuned into this show for a reason. That's because I actually fucking work in this industry and I'm actually building a business inside of this industry. So here's what you need to expect for 2024. If you thought sales were hard this year, get ready. It's going to continue to be hard next year and the year after that and the year after that, because the reality is business is very, very hard, you guys. You could look at any of this stuff that's out there and make any decision what you want. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to lead by example. I'm going to continue to show up every single day and put content out there that I hope that you guys can apply to your business and see a difference out there. But the reality is there's still going to be an opportunity no matter what. I don't subscribe to a lot of the stuff that I see out there because frankly, I think it's loser talk. Really what it boils down to. It's people that are fucking scared. You just got to get out there and go for it, right? The cards are going to fall the way that the cards are going to fall. Control your controllables. I think that is one thing that everybody out there, whether you're a sales rep or a business owner or what, everybody out there needs to focus on controlling what they can control next year. I can control my effort. I can control my customer experience. I can control the training that I'm going to bring on to the 10 people I'm going to hire next year, right? So that's what I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to continue to go out there and execute, all right? Because when you're in a position like I eat what I kill, and I love it, and I'm signed up for it. You know what? I love the challenge. I've fallen in love with it. I've fallen in love with the uncertainty over these last almost 4 years of being self-employed, all right? You just got to go up and you got to keep showing up and you got to figure it out on your own. Because here's the thing, as Ed Milet says, no one's coming to save you. All right. No one's coming to save you. If you're in business and you signed up for this shit, it's on you to figure it out. All right. Harsh reality. I fucking have to accept that every single day because no one's coming to make sure that my shit gets done and my business runs profitably but me. So that article, decent information in it, freight waves. Truckload supply and demand on collision course in 2024. This next article, I don't know if we're going to get all the way through it, is from, it's talking about Convoy. And it's from Freight Waves as well. And it's the Convoy autopsy continues. And then a panel of people saw capacity issues and a lack of discipline. I truly look at it like this. We have two major events that are unfolding in the transportation industry that I feel truly like case studies are going to be written out. And there's going to be a lot to learn. You look at Convoy and you look at Yellow. These are two multi-billion-dollar valuation companies, billion-dollar revenue companies that failed in this year. There's no denying that. There's going to be a lot to learn from these situations, right? Case in point, you guys, there's no playbook to success, right? Decisions are made, good or bad, and it has an effect on your business. And, so this one, the movers and shakers who descended on New York City each December to talk about the role of private equity and venture capital in transportation did so against the backdrop of a major development. And that was the collapse of Convoy. The shocking disappearance became the lead topic of discussion. And then moderator Mark Blubaugh, I botched that name. The head of transportation group at the firm, excuse me, asked panels chosen to talk about the innovative technology which happened at the digital broker that made such a huge mark on the trucking industry in just a few years. As the CEO of a more traditional 3PL impacted by Convoy, Echo CEO Doug Wagoner saw firsthand how a well-funded brokerage operated. And while he said the Convoy technology was very good, I would even say gold-plated, he also saw shortcomings in its market position. Convoy's strength was short-haul regional freight. They really weren't playing with big carriers, so they never had the capacity. And then Wagoner said that the average length of haul at Convoy was about 350 miles. At Echo, it's 760 miles. So it's two different markets. And Echo's internal classifications divide up the carrier pool into 5 tiers. And then, let me see, owner operators is lowest tier, big carriers like Knight Swift, which he cited by name, would be in tier 5. The big carriers are also more sophisticated in how they price. So as long as we're smart and know what to look for, we can get the best pricing. Kendra Tucker, the CEO of Truck Stop, said she looked at the Convoy collapse with a lot of compassion and empathy because it was a business with a lot of passion and good intention. But she also said that Convoy was in a position to get more funding during a period between 2017 and 2022. With transportation becoming quite sexy, VCs started to get in, and that didn't just apply to Convoy, and it resulted in a valuation at $3 billion. But the money was fast and loose, and Tucker said one of the biggest things that make third-party logistics providers really great is the discipline in which they run their business, and venture capital is not known for that. Yeah, I think that this is one of those, again, I think that there's going to be a ton to come about this. And then, Tobena over at Cloud Trucks was cited in this article as well. There's a very thin line between success and failure, like change a few things here and there. And right there, like that line, you guys, there is such a thin margin of error that's out there of what makes a company successful and what makes a company fail. And, again, there's a couple of business decisions as well. And I've talked about this on my show, right? To make it completely applicable here, about the time when I was burnt out of like $7,000 in receivables, 12 months ago. That's a thin margin of error. If I didn't make the right decisions leading up to that to pad some cash, I wouldn't have survived that. And then now learning from that, I don't do handshake agreements. So again, that thin line of success that they're talking about, it's changing very few things and they're just nudging it by like 1 degree, how much of a difference that can make in the business long term. It's a good read on this. And, this is going to be one of those gifts that I think keeps on giving from a news perspective as more and more things start to come out, you guys. So that article was from FreightWaves. Convoy Autopsy continues is the headline of it. And then Stephen Tittle says Convoy Flexport tie will be in the news in the future. Blow up Convoy, rescue Flexport. Someone will look deep into that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Steve. I don't. It's going to be interesting to see, especially with the article that we broke down with my man Sean over at Denim. Shout out to Denim. Last week, it was about the amount of money that Convoy is owed. And if it's going to be interesting to see, and again, this is purely speculative from Chris Jolly's perspective. It's going to be interesting to see if they are utilizing Convoy's technology on Convoy's customers just under Flexport when all of those carriers are owed tons and tons of money from Convoy still to this point. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I think that is a early point on what could be a major story next year. So we'll see, you guys. But hey, that's going to be it. At the end of the day, you guys, I got to get back out to slinging freight. Your boy here has to make moves because I'm not fucking stopping. We got a lot of ground to make up before the clock turns at midnight on December 31st here. So we will be back tomorrow, you guys, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network. That's how we help more and more people, you guys, is because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.